Despite the fact that my first visual novel, The Rave, has failed to gain any notable measure of success or visibility, I'm sticking with the platform because I believe it is a very exciting and promising storytelling medium. So, since I have my next visual novel coming out very soon, I thought it would be a good time to discuss the most important piece of this puzzle beyond the story, and that's the visual novel software. The software I will be reviewing today in this video is called CloudNovel. Now, as you may have guessed, CloudNovel is a cloud-based visual novel engine. It runs entirely on the web. That comes with some advantages and disadvantages that I will discuss here in this video review. CloudNovel bills itself as the most powerful and easiest to use visual novel engine, something along those lines. While it may be among the most powerful in its category, is it actually the easiest to use? That's something I will try to determine in this here video. Let's get into it. A little disclaimer, I'll do my best to stay focused, but I may occasionally reference Tyranno Builder in this review. First visual novel software I ever used, so kind of hard not to draw some comparisons. But on to CloudNovel. CloudNovel allows you to build every facet of your visual novel, from scene creation to exporting the file to a readable medium. That means you can add all the standard assets like your characters, backgrounds, music, sounds, and all that good shit. Right off the rip, I have to say that one of the most disappointing things about CloudNovel is mobile support or lack thereof. I end up rolling with this visual novel engine because I was under the impression that it could generate mobile friendly exports. Can't remember if I saw this on a website somewhere or if it was in chatting with the owner, but I recall that being the main selling point that led me to choosing this software because I looked at quite a few of them and none of them had Android support specifically, which is what I was looking for. At least not in a intuitive way that a boob like me could fucking handle. So I'm pretty sure you can run your visual novel created with CloudNovel on a mobile device just using a mobile browser. But I was specifically looking for something that would spit out an APK file so I could get my visual novel in the Google Play Store. So the search for that still continues. For now, I guess I'm content on settling for a PC version. It is what it is. One of the most important aspects of CloudNovel is scene creation. From your dashboard, you can create and manage all the scenes for your visual novel. Of course, the scene is essentially the foundation on which your story is built. You'll be spending a lot of time here in the scene management console. I'm not necessarily a fan of how CloudNovel approaches scene management. Like most of CloudNovel, this aspect is approached in a very granular and detailed way. Now, this is very cool on the surface. It sounds cool, functional, whatever, whatever, but it can be very time consuming, especially if you compare it to Tyranno Builder. What I mean by that is you have to take a lot of extra steps to complete these tasks, which should be simple tasks, but you have to do a little bit of extra to get them done. Kind of like a woman who chooses to take complication over simplicity damn near every time. It's a fucking joke, settle down. Scene management gets really chaotic when you have a story like mine, Sorry That You're Dead, my second visual novel. In this slide, you can see that I have all these little branches going to a variety of different scenes. Honestly, it's a fucking mess the way I structured it. That's partially a me thing because my story is kind of complex with the game within the game concept I'm trying to create. But in my personal opinion, I just think Cloud Novel isn't as intuitive as it could be. And by comparison, Tyranno Builder approaches scene management in a much more straightforward and streamlined manner. Once you create a scene, you can go inside that scene and start building it. This is mostly done via pages. Pages are designed for the narrative and the character dialogue of your story. From here, you can add your player choices, which of course is a signature feature of visual novels, and you can even connect one scene to another scene. Now, why you would have to do all that when you already set up all these branches in scene management? I guess that's another one of those extra little nuances Cloud Novel likes to make you go through. Now, pages go a tad deeper with page reviews, and this is probably my least favorite thing about this software. Instead of dropping your assets directly into the page, page preview takes you into an entirely different menu where you have the ability to add your characters, backgrounds, music, etc. I swear I didn't fully grasp this whole fucking menu and the inner workings of it until I was almost done with my story. And by then, I'm like 6 months into the game. I've already spent a lot of time into it. And as I'm editing my story, putting a wrap on it, I'm finally understanding things that I've been working with for months because it's just so many fucking layers to it. Now, this is where Cloud Novel's granular, deep drilling capabilities come into play. While it shows you just how powerful this software is, it also just seems extra tedious. I just feel things like resizing and positioning your characters could be done in a more straightforward, simplified way. When I first started using this software, there were only a handful of tutorials available. The support team was literally working on putting together documentation to help noobs like myself while I was working on my story. But by then, I'm so deep in the game, I'm like committed to trying to learn everything myself. And since I couldn't always figure out how to do this stuff myself or the documentation on that particular aspect I was working with wasn't available, I had to reach out to support and wait for them to get back to me and walk me through it, which of course wasted a lot of time. I shouldn't say wasted time, but I spent a lot of time working on the story, which at the end of the day is a very short story, especially when you compare it to the Rave, my first visual novel. You can read this one just like that. It's done and over with. Which is why I added so much to it, like the game within the game and all that extra character choices and shit, because I wanted to give it some replay value so just it wasn't over so quickly. Anyway, inside these page previews, you'll find a lot of controls here, like I said, that really put the power of Cloud Novel on display. But unfortunately, these controls and extra features are clunky at best. Could be me just being a total fucking goofball, but I found that features such as setting the duration on your audio clips or trying to set up delays to determine when exactly a character appears on the screen, they just never worked for me. Like it just seems like a lot of stuff in this preview section is pointless, or so if either it's making you do extra shit in a complicated way or it just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of this particular aspect and how they got these features set up. So that's same previews for you. Speaking of previews, this is where Cloud Novel starts to become very inconsistent in my experience. For starters, you have page previews, which of course previews a specific page that you're working on in the scene, and you have the main preview, which will essentially preview your entire story from wherever you have it set to play. The problem is music might play when you first launch the page preview, but say you go back and change something and then you start to play that preview for a second time, then the music may or may not play. And you experience this during the whole process of editing and previewing your pages. Music, fucking audio clips, like just say you recorded some vocals or something, they may or may not play depending on where you are in the page preview process. So at this point, you don't know if you did something wrong, if there's something with those Trello assets that were reported by other users, or if it's just the preview being wonky. I also had this weird issue where the music at the beginning of my visual novel played just fine while I was in the page preview, but it wouldn't play in the main preview. Now you would assume that since this is the main preview, it would be like true to what your final product is going to look like. This would be what you would pay attention to. This would be what you would go off of. You would assume that you got a problem here. Well, I'm testing my first draft of my visual novel that I downloaded, which would essentially be, if I was done, it would be my final product that I'm putting on the marketplace or whatever. The music that I found wasn't playing in the main preview online while I was working in Cloud Novel. Now that I've downloaded it to my computer, it's playing just fine. So this can be a very frustrating aspect of the software, considering that you may spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's going on with the problem. So I wasn't necessarily a fan of that aspect. A key feature of Cloud Novel is the asset library. This is where you'll find your characters, backgrounds, audio files, etc. It's also where things get a bit tricky. If you're using the free version of Cloud Novel like my cheap ass, you have to host these assets on a third-party site. The Cloud Novel administration team recommended Trello, which is like a project management system for like companies use or whatever. Like one of my freelance writing clients use this to manage our little projects or whatever. They also allow you to upload images and audio files and things of that nature, which is perfect for something like this, you would think. I think Trello goes by a different name nowadays, but anyway, it still functions the same. So you upload your stuff here to Trello or whatever the fuck they call it in nowadays. Once you upload it, that piece of media, you take the link that they generate for you there, and then you paste it into your asset library in Cloud Novel. And when you're ready to insert it into your story, you can do all that and put it wherever you need it to go. In order for you to store your assets on Cloud Novel, you have to sign up for one of the premium packages. There's actually like a couple different plans that you can choose from. I didn't really examine them too much because I knew there was a free version, and my cheap ass being the thrifty motherfucker that I am, I figured that I could work around and do all the little extra things that wasn't too tedious, just so I can, not have to pay for it more or less. Because I already bought a Cloud Novel, a visual novel software, a Tyranno builder. So if I could get away using this one for free, that's what I wanted to do. But of course, internet storage doesn't come for cheap, so I understand them wanting you to sign up and pay for the platform if you want to store your assets on their servers. The trouble with using third party hosting like Trello is it can cause problems when it comes to incorporating those assets in your story. For example, there were some users that have reported some issues with Trello assets basically not showing up or audio not playing or whatever. And the team at CloudNovel couldn't figure out what the problem was because, of course, they don't work at Trello. They don't know what the fuck's going on. So they suggested that you sign up for the premium version of CloudNovel. Like I said, I totally understand why they would want to do that. Running this platform costs a lot of money. Developing the software, maintaining it, you got your hosting fees, upkeeping a server, and all that shit. But if you're like me, when you found out that these issues have been reported and you're damn near finished with your visual novel at that point, you don't want to all of a sudden have to pay for it when you've been using this free version that was advertised as being suitable for what you needed to do, especially when considering that they recommended Trello. I would have never even used Trello if it wasn't recommended to me. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Kind of sucked, you know what I'm saying? You find out that these fucking assets may not be working and you may have to take all your assets that you fucking store somewhere else. And by now, I literally got like 8 pages worth of assets, dozens and dozens of fucking files, and have to port them over to this new platform. It could be a very tedious fucking process. Now, luckily, I didn't have to go that route, but I imagine if some users had to, they wasn't very fucking happy about it. One significant advantage CloudNovel has over Tyranno Builder is support. You can either create a post in a support forum or contact the owner directly when you have an issue, who may or may not respond to you. Support isn't perfect, of course, it never is, and you're more likely to get the best results when you're going to the forum and posting your issues there. All you have to do for the most part is tagging them in, and they'll usually try to help you out the best they can. Support is obviously very critical for this type of software. I did get left hanging on a few issues, but overall, I'd say the support is serviceable, so I won't kill them too much for whatever they want never to help me with. Like I said, they for the most part did the best they could. So, in closing, I would say that I did CloudNovel. The software lives up to its billing as a powerful visual novel engine that is, for the most part, fairly easy to use. At the same time, I feel that the learning curve is a lot steeper than what you have with Tyranno Builder. I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out little things and even more time waiting for support to get back to me. Not necessarily their fault, I'm a dumbass when it comes to some things, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, I highly recommend this software for anybody looking to build a visual novel without having to deal with any complex coding or things of that nature. The software pretty much runs on the what you see is what you get editing type of concept. Graphical user interface and everything is, I don't want to say straightforward, but it's easy enough. And now that they have the documentation, the support forms or whatever you want to call it, like the facts and tutorials and shit that they didn't have when I first started, it will be a lot easier to pick up than it was then. So, but due to the nature of the cloud and the asset hosting with a third party or whatever, and the fact that it doesn't fully support mobile, I'm probably going to be going back to Tyranno Builder for my next project. And hopefully I can swing back around to this one at a later date, but maybe they add some new features, mainly full mobile support, Android. That's what I'm looking for. So, in the meantime, I highly recommend that you check it out. Support the projects created by Count Crew Publications. That's me. And more importantly, support these other storytellers and let's make the visual novel revolution a real thing. Peace.